For sure, yeah, absolutely. Welcome back, everyone. I'll now reconvene the meeting from yesterday, and due to emerging matter, we'll be recessing today's budget meeting and reconvening Monday, February 7th at 9 a.m. Following this meeting, we'll move into a special meeting in camera under Section 194 of the Municipal Government Act.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Those of you on Teams, please disconnect. For those members of council on Microsoft Teams, please use the second link provided in the email this morning to connect to the special meeting. Thank you.
So we leave this one.
Okay, do we have the new one? I make the motion.
Councilor Cardinal, Councilor Bajoko?
I move that we go into public mode. Thank you.
Can I have someone second the motion? Councilor Cardinal?
I second we go into public hearing.
Thank you. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Councillor Walklin?
Loretta?
Thank you. All in favor? That's moved unanimously. We'll now go into our public meeting, and I'll acknowledge that the land in which you live, learn, work, and play is Treaty 8 territory, the traditional lands of the Korean Dene, and the unceded territory of the Métis. I believe we have a motion from Councillor Weigel. Before we do so, we'll be joined by Legal Services, Chris Davis. Chris, could you give council publicly an overview of our options as council with respects to the Code of Conduct matters, please?
Yes, Your Worship. Chris Davis with Municipal Legal Services. Your Worship and members of council, if a matter arises over which members of the council or the public believe that there's been a breach of the council Code of Conduct bylaw, which would be including action which would otherwise bring the council and the council's reputation into disrepute in the eyes of the public, there is a process available. Council has a Code of Conduct bylaw, bylaw 18-009, and in that bylaw, there's a procedure that may be followed if an issue is raised. So a formal complaint would have to be submitted. It must be in writing, and it must provide the particulars of the alleged incident or incidents that give rise to the complaint. That complaint would be directed to the municipality's independent integrity commissioner. The commissioner has time in which to review and investigate the allegations that have been raised in the complaint, and ultimately will come to an initial finding and report. That report will be provided to the person or persons who are alleged to have breached the bylaw, and they will be given an opportunity to respond to the conclusions, the preliminary conclusions of the integrity commissioner. Ultimately, following that process, if the integrity commissioner believes that there still is action for which this council may wish to consider sanctions, the report will be brought back to council, and council has a series of sanctions available in Section 9 of the Code of Conduct. That's the process. I would remind council that council in and of itself has no legal authority to disqualify or remove from office any member of council for a breach of its Code of Conduct. That authority does not exist. There is authority that resides in the Minister of Municipal Affairs to conduct inspections or inquiries, but such investigations are rare, and typically the minister will look to the local jurisdiction to employ their own Code of Conduct, which is the tool that the government, the province of Alberta, has provided to municipalities to address these types of complaints or issues. I hope that that is helpful to council, but if you have any questions about those views, I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I believe Councillor Weigel has a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I motion that the CAO be directed on behalf of council to submit a complaint to the Integrity Commissioner for the breach of Code of Conduct by Councillor Dogar on February 3rd, 2022.
Can I have a second for that motion? Councillor
I'll
Grant?
second that motion.
I second that motion.
Councillor Dogar, second the motion. Thank you. Councillor Weigel, would you like to speak to that motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Going through and walking through this process and taking it on, I believe that this is a direction that we need to go. I believe that the integrity has been broken multiple times, but egregiously yesterday. And as we move forward with this, as Chris Davis has said, that we, as a whole, don't have any legal standing to be able to move forward. I personally have a hard time sitting on this committee with these type of actions. We live on treaty land, and that relationship is massively important to myself and to this whole community. And so to start the repair of that relationship and in the heart of reconciliation for my brothers and sisters, for everything they're going through, especially at a time like this, I believe we need to move forward with this.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. Councillor Grandison?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, I absolutely support the motion. I'm impacted, as is, I believe, all of our colleagues and our community. I look to my counterparts, Councillor Cardinal, Councillor Walkman as well, and the impact that it's had. And I've certainly heard loud and clear from the community the impact. And quite frankly, I think all of us were elected to represent the best interests of this community, which includes truth and reconciliation, working with all of our Indigenous partners, friends, and municipal citizens. Excuse me. However, having said that, despite all of this, it is absolutely my belief that in order to repair the damage that's potentially been done and to allow this council its full potential to represent our citizens, I have humbly requested the resignation of Councillor Dolgar. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Grandison. Councillor Weigel?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo what Councillor Grandison said. In my position and my ethnic background, I've never dealt with racism of any type. But living in Fort McMurray has been about living with people with many different cultural backgrounds and coming together in unity. As a father, I believe that we need to take responsibility for the actions that we do, and we need to do what it takes to reconcile and to make things whole. And we need to represent, especially here, we need to represent for our children and the generations to come, role modeling what it takes. And when we do actions that come outside of integrity, we need to take responsibility for it. I do believe that the only way to reconcile this inside this community, all for the whole of RMWB and its territory. I also call upon Councillor Dolgar to resign immediately and that we can start repair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. Councillor Ball?
This one strikes a nerve with me. I've grown up in this wonderful community for a little more than 30 years, and I've never been exposed to actions like I was yesterday. Councillor Dolgar insulted a community I'm very close to, and I cannot forgive you for your actions, your comments, or anything. I echo everyone's comments in here. I ask you to resign. I will accept nothing else.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Dolgar?
Yes, sir. Through the chair, sir. I respect the opinion of my colleagues. Certainly, they have surrendered to the pressure of the mob and mob mentality. But I would ask all 10 of you that were you people asleep yesterday? There was not an iota of blink of an eye. What to talk of other? You know, certainly You see, I'm answerable to you. I respect you. I love you people. But you know, this sort of attitude is just not understood. The ladies are weeping today. I respect my sisters. But I don't know about the men, how chicken-hearted they are behaving. Thank you very much.
Hey, point of order, calling these guys chickens. Point of order.
Thank you, Councilor McGrath.
I would just, I'm sorry,
That's
Mr. Mayor.
upheld. Thank you, Councilor McGrath.
Thank you.
Councilor Grandison?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through the chair. I would just like to acknowledge that not only was I not asleep, I was unable to hear the words and recognize what was being said. I found that very challenging, and I would just like to also note for any of the viewers that were watching that the minute council was aware of what was said, the meeting was immediately stopped and dealt with. I sit beside Councillor Dogar, and anybody who has been watching Councillor knows that. I was not able to understand the words that were said, or I would have immediately called point of order. I was not aware. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Grandison. Councilor Dogar?
Sir, I apologize. I take my words back. I appreciate Councillor McGrath for making me remind. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak to this item? Motion on the table? Councillor Cardinal? You're on mute, Councillor Cardinal.
For the public, I scrutinized the words Dogar had used yesterday, and I did bring up the fact that I wanted to educate our council with some more funds for missing and murdered Indigenous women, and two-spirited people. And then we have this predicament we're in now, to where, you know, it's a continuous thing with Councillor Dogar again calling us chickens. In no way am I a chicken. I am a kind person, and I've worked my way up to be at the position I am now. And unfortunately, you're doing the same things that you did yesterday and calling us down a chicken. And in no way am I a chicken. And, you know, and you calling down our people in the same way that you just called us down publicly in this council chambers, I condemn you for that. I mean, when are you going to learn that this is not a place for it publicly, nor anywhere else in Treaty 8 territory, nor in unceded land of the Métis? I don't appreciate it, Dogar. When are you going to stop? You need to think about what you're going to be saying. You need to think about what you're saying. You can't say these things. These are not nice things that you're saying. And I asked for your resignation, and still you will not resign. Unfortunately, now we got to take this to a different level. Like, give our community back their pride, give them back their equality, give them back their faith and their, you know, their honor. Like, I don't understand why you're not understanding. I don't appreciate it. I speak for all Indigenous people in regional municipality, Wood Buffalo, and people all across the world that will no longer stand for this kind of behavior towards our people. No way. I'm not going to stand for it, nor will I stand for your behavior anymore and the unkind words you continue to say. Think about what you're doing, Mr. Dogar. I don't appreciate it. And I ask that you take the time to think before you speak. And if you're unsure about what it is you're going to say, ask. Do not speak out of spite. And now this is for the public watching. I ask that Mr. Dogar educate himself on what it means to wear the red dress on his chest. And I asked Mr. Dogar to educate himself on what it means to wear orange. And I asked Dogar to educate himself on what it means for the calls to action from the government of Canada to the truth and reconciliation of all Indigenous peoples and two-spirited people, and that's everybody across this country. I won't stand for it no more. I've been kind enough, and now I'm going to speak up, and I think that it's time for you to resign, Dogar, and just be a man and just own up to it like I've owned up to my stuff. I think that it's time for you to do that. I appreciate your comments that you said earlier, but not the comments that you just said while you're calling us chickens and referring to us as your in a bad demeanor. I'm sorry, man. I have enough. I said enough, and that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Cardinal. Councillor Walkman?
Oh, just what Kendrick said, like, first you put down the Indigenous yesterday. Now today you're putting down your, like Kendrick had just said, when are you going to stop? I will not call you a counselor, Dogar. You have done the damage. You have done the hurt. There's a lot of people that are angry. I'm one of them. And for you to sit there just today and call us a chicken, for people that know me, I ain't no chicken, believe me. I was awake through this meeting. I was not sleeping. The other, being called a chicken, I will stand up to you, Dogar, and I will tell you, there's no chickens in that room. We are all supposed to be together. The only one that isn't with us is you. For you putting down the community, your colleagues, that is so uncalled for. You should realize the hurt that you're doing just in 2 days. If we were allowed you to sit on this council for the next 4 years, what other damages are you going to do? I don't want to sit and wait for that. I am tired of the things that you said in the past 2 days. I was in that kitchen area thinking, and to walk back in that council chamber yesterday after our recess, I tell you, I wasn't no chicken, but I did not want to deal with this yesterday. I walked out, like I said, I sat in my vehicle and I was in tears. I'm not going to go through this for 4 years. No way. I'm asking you. And I'm not the only one. The community is even asking you to resign. For all the things that you said, the damage you put through everybody, the hurt, the anger, I think that's all it takes. If you were in your right mind, you would stand up today and say, I resign. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor Walkman. Councillor Stroud?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I'm just going to reiterate, I was on a virtual meeting with a number of Indigenous ladies last evening. These ladies include the communities of John Bay, Anzac, Fort McMurray, Fort McKay, and Port Chipewyan. They were discussing this situation. They are hurting when they hear these racist and degrading remarks about the Indigenous people in our region. They asked if we had put the motion forward for funding to support a campaign to make residents aware of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in our region. The question came up, does council know how many? I can tell you in the last couple of years, there are 2 from John Bay alone. When a father from John Bay comes up to me and says, have you heard anything on my missing daughter? He was heartbroken. I was not even aware that she was missing. Her body was found in Thickwood this last year. Action needs to be taken. When remarks are made, such as you made, Dogar, your action and words are irreparable. I believe you need to resign. Thank you.
Joko?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Like I said, this has been a difficult one day. Mr. Doga has put all of us through the stress of processing and hearing feedback from our community. As a woman, I'm hurt deeply. I'm not only a woman, I'm a woman of a young woman, a woman who is a mother of a young woman. To talk about the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, the way it was said yesterday, is a letdown of the immigrants living in Fort McMurray. It's a letdown for women, children, and the entire community. Like I said, I'm really concerned about Mr. Doga, his safety, because I don't think he gets it. My frustration at this point is that I think there's a disconnect. I think Mr. Doga doesn't really get what we are discussing, and that's where I think we have an issue, because I don't think he understands what was done, the impact on the community. I don't think he gets it, so I'm really afraid. I was coming in here to discuss whether there could be training or any sort of help that Mr. Doga could get. I don't think Mr. Doga is on the same page with the mayor and council. I think he needs help. His response today to all the uproar and the emotional damage that has been done, the response scares me. I'm not an expert in that field, but I would recommend that Mr. Councillor Doga seeks help in addition to all that is going on. I don't think I have observed him. I'm not a psychologist by any standard, but I think there's a disconnect. I strongly recommend that he gets help, so I don't know if administration has a way of helping him. He doesn't get it, so I feel like we are pouring water at the back of a bottle. It's soaked in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bajoko. Before we go to a vote and let Councilor Dogar speak again, I just have one thing to mention. I want to make sure I apologize for myself and council that we didn't hear what was said when it was said. There's a lot going on in the council room, and when we're addressing a motion, generally just addressing the person that's making the motion, and there's a lot going on in here, and I do apologize for that. But I would like to leave everyone with this. Elaine Outlook, Shirley Walkman, Amber Tuckero. I'm sorry, Councilor Boussier.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I echo all the comments from my fellow councillors. Dogar, you need to resign. What you did yesterday has set this community back. It's divided the community. It's upset everybody that lives here and the Indigenous across the world, like Councillor Cardinal said. I have friends and I have family that are Indigenous. And just when we thought we were moving forward, yesterday occurred. I'm still sad and angry, and I'm not even sure what other emotions I'll feel. But if you don't resign, you are going to put us in a real difficult situation, including me. This is my last term serving. and I will not serve with you. So if you don't resign, you are putting me in a real difficult situation. I never signed up for this, and I certainly never expected something like this to hit this council in the first quarter of our term. I really hope you work to seek forgiveness with the Indigenous, take some training, and maybe 2025, you can put your name back on the ballot. If you want to help the healing process, I ask you, I demand you to resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Boucher. Amber Tuckero, Janice Desjardins, Shelley Dene, Bayanne Dutesse, Ellie Herman, Audrey Bigfoot, and most recently, Sherry Flood. These were not drunks that lost their way. Councilor Dogar.
Hello, thank you very much. Through the chair, sir. I have already taken back the words, and I again apologize to my sisters. I respect them. I love you people like my sister, younger and elder. About the issue which is discussed, really it is getting pathetic. Why the people are emotional? Because a wrong narrative was given. I never said people come from outside and do this. That's why I said video display and let it go to RCMP. They will sort out and the people would mitigate it. And after that, if you ask me to resign, then there's all the chances, let me be convinced over it. You see, thank you very much, Funky, for advising me. Surely I'll try to do it. At the same time, I request Councillor Cardinal that there is a funeral of the girl which was missing. Please let me know the intimate, the time and where it is, and I would request the administration to give me a vehicle. I would like that people feel that I'm friendly, and I want to subside their, mitigate their emotions. Thank you very much.
Honestly, Councilor, I don't know what to say to you, but you're not in a room full of cowards. Councilor McGrath.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman, and the rest of the elected officials. It's a sad day for us all. There's Indigenous, our whole region, trying to promote, move forward, and we were making good ground. And it's not unknown to anybody that the first guy to lift me out of the ditch was Chief Jim Bouger, Dave and Nicole Bouger, Belle and Antoine. And I've had that connection. I lived at the All Saints Hotel. So that's why I understand the importance of owning your actions. There's not one bit of remorse in your voice, only let's fight and divide. That's not how our country is formed. And I supported you on the road, whatever you needed. And yesterday, sir, I wasn't sleeping. Because if you look at the tape, I stopped you. Because I wanted to be sure. I wanted to be sure because I know myself I can't speak. And I can't hardly write an email. But you don't need that as an elected official. What you need is a heart. And for 17 years, I was at the Catholic School District. And we are proud that we are a district that graduates more Indigenous kids than any district in Canada. And that's done. And you know, I looked up last night and I said, Elsie, what would you do? What would you do, Elsie, on your own? And the only thing I could come up with, and I'm like, Lance, you wait a while. And then the friends that lift you up, bring you to a center to get recovered, and you come back and you learn that you got a few years left in you. You got another term left in you. And this is not an isolated incident. And I've been through the ringer with integrity commissioners and being investigated. And I used to drink a lot. That's behind me because of guys like Dave Nicole and Mel and those guys helped me out. And there's not one bit of remorse in your voice. I'm not going to prolong the process. I commend the mayor. The first one we had for a long time that works with us every day of the week. And here's us. You've picked on him. And this is not about you, Duggar. Don't feel you're the bad guy. As you said, you were a soldier. And if you were a soldier, sir, and if you called this your hometown, you'd do the honorable thing as a soldier. I was only a cadet. But anything I owned in Fort McMurray, I shared. I had nothing when I came here. And the guy I worked for today lost one of his own. And in the face of you fighting this community, to call the rest of us chickens, I'll remember that day. And I'm not a violent man, more of a teddy bear. But what you've done to this community, there's no fixing it. The only fixing it is, let us help you. Do the right thing. Step aside, because I know these investigations personally take months. We don't have months to move our agenda forward or our strat plan. We're starting to make amends with our Indigenous people, our leaders. And as I said yesterday during budget sessions, it's been a couple of years since we all met. So we're taking the ship. And I think collectively we're asking you to do what a soldier would do. A, step down temporarily and let us go through this process. Just step down and think about it, because you have no remorse for anything or anybody. And I would give you that chance. And if you think I was sleeping yesterday, I'd ask anybody to go back. And I want to clarify what you were saying. Best superintendent I had, he wasn't Métis and he wasn't Indigenous. He was Al Gordy, and he fell off the tracks. But they picked him up in waterways in the bush. That's the people we got to help. And that's why we're sitting around these chambers. And this community as a whole don't need this garbage. We don't need it. I don't need it. But we're going to fight for a better day. But don't think that we're chickens, because I'm sure the guy I know the best around that table is Lance. I know Stu. I know Lady J. I know all of them some. But I know if it was me or Lance, we put our hand up and say, yeah, you know what, we'll move on. Because we are that fellow from the army without the stripes. Do this right thing for the community. And I don't champion that I'm a friend of them, because some of them don't like me. But I can tell you that living above the All Sands Hotel and working with the guys in Fort Chip, skimming all out the ponds, and I'm still working with them today. And when I was at my lowest in life a year ago, I know it was the Indigenous people pulled into my home and picked me up. And they weren't drunks. They worked for everything they got, and now they're giving it all back. So your comments never be repaired. And if you're a commander in that army over there across seas, you'll do what's right. And what you call your hometown. And this is not a fight against Dover. This is to cherish the seat you're elected to. And right now, this morning, when I hear no remorse, in fact, add to her insults, I would say this publicly. I would help you any which way I could, as long as you resign. I appreciate you, Mayor Bowman, more today than I have any mayor that ever sat in that chair. And that includes Guy. And he cared about the community, but so do you and your work. I've never seen so many shots publicly at a mayor that was just in his infancy, and you do a great job as a guy that never served public office before. You'll have my full support on your initial report, and I think it's up to Dogger now, not the rest of the council, to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McGrath. So, Councilor Grahamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair. I would just like to take one more opportunity to compliment my colleagues, my fellow councilors in your ethics, in your efforts, in your desire to do what's in the best interest of our community, not for yourself, but for our citizens. And I've seen it since the first day we were elected, and I continue to see it through this day. And I can't help but to want to make sure that I acknowledge that and congratulate you and thank you for all of that. I think you've all been working your hearts out to the betterment of our community, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Councilor Grahamson. I'll call now for a vote. All in favor? Councilor Walkwin? Thank you. Anyone opposed? Councilor Dogger, you have to vote. You need to raise your hand to show you're opposed? Yes, sir. Thank you. That's carried. One opposed. And before I end the meeting, I'll also commit to our community that we'll be looking for some Indigenous culture training for us. And not only for training, but for also healing for our council and ourselves. And again, my heartfelt apologies, especially to our councilors, Councilor Cardinal and Councilor Walkwin. Okay, thank you, everyone. The meeting's now adjourned.